Bro, you're 60 days in from kratom recovery. Talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, bro. Uh, I think to give it context, you have to kind of know my history or relationship with opiates. So, uh, first of all, I grew up in a very conservative, I wouldn't say sheltered, but strong Christian home. So I was kind of a goody kid growing up. I didn't do drugs. I didn't have sex. Obviously, all those things were bad. I was out of the house by the time I was 17. I had moved to the Bay Area by the time I was 20 years old, and that's when I got into fitness and personal training. And somebody introduced me to Vicodin. At that point, I'd never had any major injuries. I've never had to take it, didn't know what it was. And what was appealing to me, one, was from a close friend of mine that I trusted. And we were both into fitness and working out. And what I didn't like about drinking was, drinking a bunch of beers or alcohol always made me feel terrible the next day. I didn't train, extra empty calories. And so as a fitness guy, even though I was young in my 20s, I liked going out. I didn't like to drink a lot. And so my buddy, I remember turning me on and saying, "Oh man, if you have one of these and you have a beer or two, it'll feel like you had seven and you don't have to have seven beers." And so again, being a good friend of mine, I trusted him and that it was good advice or whatever. And I'm 20, so I'm pretty stupid, So I take it and I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is it." I feel tipsy and I've only had one of these things. And so that's how it was introduced to me. And through my 20s, it was recreationally. It wasn't a habit. It was something that, if someone had them and we were out, I would sure, I'll have one, on the weekends here or there. So I didn't have any sort of an addiction or any issue with it. It was more recreationally. And then I actually got hurt for the first time. And when I got hurt, I tore my ACL and my MCL, and the doctor prescribed me. So first time I'm ever getting prescribed these. Now, because of my recreational history of taking this, I didn't have the same effect that probably the normal person who's in a lot of pain takes those for the first time. My body had kind of been a little adapted to it. So I remember coming to the doctor and being like, "Hey, these aren't working. Like I'm in a lot of pain and I'm taking," and it says, one every 4 hours. And and she's like, "Are you following the prescription?" I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, start taking them ahead of the 4 hours. So before the pain starts to hit, start taking it like every 3 hours." So I'm going through the surgery and the rehab and I'm taking these things, one every 3 hours as I'm going through it. And probably, I don't know, I think it's about a month and a half goes by. And I'm through rehab. I'm feeling better. I'm starting the recovery process. And I decide like, and I still have like half a bottle left of this stuff. And I go, "Oh, I'm good. I don't need this anymore. The pain is gone away." And so I stopped taking it. And that night I catch a horrible flu. I mean, I'm just sweating and nauseous and diarrhea and I can't sleep. I'm like, "Oh my God, what a horrible flu that hits me out of nowhere." And it carries on to the next day that I got headaches. I don't feel good, all these side effects. Right. And that night comes around and I'm like exhausted from feeling terrible all day. And all I want to do is sleep. And I'm like, "You know what? Those Vicodin help me sleep. I'm going to take one to help me pass out tonight because I feel so miserable." And I took it and all my symptoms went away. And I didn't just, all my flu symptoms went away, but I felt good. And I went, "Oh, like, and literally went to my office, my little office room in my condo, and got on the computer and like started researching, Vicodin addiction, withdrawals, all this stuff like that. And to find that, oh my God, I'm going through a withdrawal from this. And so that kind of freaked me out. And I actually tapered it all off on my own. And so I just researched, how do I get off this? What do I do? And so obviously the cold turkey thing wasn't right. And so I slowly had to go from taking 7 or 8 of those things a day down to, 6 and 5 and then work my way. And so that was kind of my early on relationship with it. And I realized that I liked it. It was something that I enjoyed. And so I knew to, avoid it. And complete transparency, from that point on, again, I allow myself to recreationally have it, but at least now I was aware of like the power of this thing. Like, oh, if I have too much of it, it could end up into like an addiction really quickly. And so I would kind of self-regulate. And I've always been pretty good about anything that I take or do. And that's caffeine, marijuana, it doesn't matter what it is, to kind of monitor my relationship with the thing. And is it taking control of me or do I have control of it? And so I do that even with, like I said, caffeine, marijuana. If I feel like, oh, I'm having it a lot, I'll stay off for a while just to stay in control. And so I've got that kind of relationship with it, and I feel like I've got control of it. Well, I shared this story on the podcast years ago, and I have an uncle who comes to me, and he tells me, he opens up and shares with me that he's been addicted to Vicodin for years. And I'm like, oh man, I feel for him because I know what it was like to go through that. And I had just seen this documentary. And so we're having lunch together. And I go, hey, I said, I just saw this incredible documentary the other day. I forget the name. I think it's called, I want to say The Power of the Leaf or something like that. I forget the name of the documentary. It's not the one that Mark Bell did. It was one before even the one that Mark Bell did. And I forget the name of it, but it was a whole documentary on kratom. And it was all positive. It was all the things, all these people that were addicted to heroin and opiates and how it saved their life. And it's this natural leaf and it helped all of them. And it was just, I was just like, hey, I've heard about this stuff. I've never taken it. But I watched this documentary and it sounds like it's really helped a lot of people. You should check it out. So I tell him that, still never seen it or experienced it myself. And like 6 months later goes by. He's actually, I have him in town again. He's staying at my house and he's watching my bulldogs at the time for me. So Katrina and I can take off for vacation. And I see he comes with his like bag of prescriptions and pills and so that. He's got a lot of stuff going on with him. And he pops out this bottle of kratom. And I go, oh, you took the kratom. I'm like, how's it working? He's like, oh, it's amazing. And I'm like, really? I was like, how much is it like Vicodin? He's like, oh, it feels exactly like Vicodin. I'm like, come on, exactly like a pharmaceutical? No way. He's like, yeah, you got to take about six of them or so, but it'll feel like a Vicodin. And I go, no way. Let me see. Let me try this herbal leaf thing that's, that supposedly feels just like a Vicodin. And so he gives me 6 of them. I take 6 of them and I sit there, and about 45 minutes to an hour later, I melt into the couch just like I would from taking a Vicodin. And I'm like, holy this is crazy. I cannot. And what happens at that time, I play this justification of, oh, well, this is awesome. This thing gives me that same feel good feeling that I would feel from a Vicodin, but it's this herbal leaf. And so this is cool. So I buy my own bottle. And so I start to have it around my house and, starts off occasionally here or there, again, recreationally having it, or some nights when I want to relax and I enjoy it like a glass of wine, or enjoy it like taking a hit of marijuana. And so that's kind of the game that I'm playing with myself and telling me that it's an herbal leaf. It's totally fine. And, knowing damn well that it's acting on the opiate receptor. And I know what that does. That's what makes heroin and Vicodin and Percocet all so addictive, is it bonds with the opiate receptor. The opiate receptor is the one that makes us feel good and relaxed. And so I'm not naive to what it's doing, but I'm justifying it because, oh, it's this herbal leaf and it's helped so many people. So that starts, and it ends up, what ends up happening that's unique to kratom, when you compare it to, say, a pharmaceutical, is the effects wear off much faster and your body adapts pretty quick. And so it doesn't take long for, that feeling that I got from 6 to have to be 8, and then 10, and then 12. And so, again, justifying, oh, it's an herbal thing. I'll just take more so I can have that same feeling. And I allowed that to creep up, and I allowed it to creep up for a good solid year or two before I kind of had like a little bit of a wake up moment where I realized, like, oh, I'm starting to take this consistently all the time. Let me taper back down, just like I would with like I did with the Vicodin, like I've done with anything else. And I have some success with that. Like I taper down. I don't have any withdrawal symptoms. And so I have this false idea that I have control because I was able to do that. But quickly I start taking it again, and ramp up really fast, right back up to where I was. And I kind of do this for about 3 years of kind of peaks and valleys until I'd say year 3, I start looking at myself and going like, this is starting to affect my sleep if I don't take it. Like I have to take it to get a good night's rest. And so it becomes this thing that I'm dependent on to get good rest. And so that becomes that justification process of like, well, I'm not even feel it anymore. I don't even feel good from it. I don't feel anything from it. It's like, but if I don't take it, I have restless nights. And I allowed that dosage to get up to the point to where I was taking 52 kratom pills in a day. And I was broken up in like 3 to 4 times throughout the day. So every like 4 hours or so, because the half-life on there is only like 6 to 8 hours, I think is what the half-life is, maybe 12. And it starts to wear down. And man, I just had this moment where I realized, and there's a great C.S. Lewis quote. I should have pulled it up before we came on here. Maybe I can find it. I'll summarize it, and somebody can Google it. But C.S. Lewis has this great quote that talks about, and it's just about how God will whisper, and then eventually, like that whisper turns into like this loud wake up moment for you.
It says, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. That one?
And I had that conviction kind of whispering to me for at least 3 years, or close to 3 years. And I had this moment where I was like, he's been whispering. He's been so patient with me and whispering. And I'm so lucky and blessed that something tragic hasn't happened. I haven't crashed a car. It hasn't divided my marriage. It's not affecting my relationship with myself. I really don't have any. The negative side effects I have is I can't sleep and I can't operate without this addiction. But I don't have anything that's traumatically happening in my life. And so I have this moment of clarity that I'm so lucky that I haven't had a hard lesson from this. And so I decided at that moment, like, I'm coming off this thing. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but at the same time this is all unfolding, California decides to start to ban kratom. So California has now banned kratom. You can't get them in smoke shops or anything like that. And so I'm doing the math on how to taper off 1 gram at a time. And I'm taking 52 of these things. So you're talking, I'm at 25 grams, 26 grams. And so you're talking like, you're supposed to go down 1 gram a week. And so you're talking like a year to get me. And so, but I've already made this one. I'm one of those people who, once I say I'm going to do something and put it out there, I'm going to do this. And so I feel like, and I've already gone back on that. And it's like, I'm at a place now where the conviction is so heavy. I feel so lucky that something tragic hasn't happened. So I go and I order 3,000 or 6,000 of these pills online, have it shipped to my Nevada house, and make plans to go get it, mapping out the math on how I'm going to do this, and thinking to myself, oh my God, this is going to be a year if I stick to it, just to potentially to taper down the right way. And I pray. I'm praying a lot, and I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do? And the message that I received was that I need to suffer. And that was that I was so lucky that I didn't, anything tragically happen to me. But the lesson I needed to suffer to never go back. And so that to me meant I need to just rip the Band-Aid off. And I know I'm heading into a storm and it's going to be a tough one, but I need to feel that pain in order to keep me away. And so I told my wife that night, I said, hon, because she had already knew my plan to taper. I know I had communicated this. I'd never hid anything from her. She's watched me with everything else in my life. And again, she never saw anything wrong with my behavior. She's always seen me in control of things like that. So she would like occasionally say things like, hey, are you tapering down? You know, or how's the kratom going? Like she would check in with me. And I would tell her like, oh, you know, I came down a little bit. I'm back up. Or like, we had all this stuff going on. And she'd be like, okay. And she'd question it, but never pressure, never make me feel bad about it. Always encourage me that, you know, I know you don't like when you don't have control. So that feels like you're losing some control. Like she would just kind of whisper also into my ear about stuff. And so she knew, and I told her, and she's like, are you sure you want to do it this way? And I said, hon, I said that I prayed a lot about it. And I think I'm supposed to. I think that this is the way. And I know I've got 4 days off in a row right now of no work where I have to show up to something. And I know that the first few days are going to be really acute. And so I can afford to be home. And I'd bought a sauna to put in the house so I could try and accelerate the sweating out. I had all the supplements. I got everything I needed, vitamins, it's all ready to be ready for the storm that was coming. But I wasn't ready for what came. It was so difficult. The only thing I could connect to, I watched because I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep for 3 days, 0 sleep. And it wasn't just not sleep. When I lay down in a bed, it felt like my skin was crawling and my bones were trying to jump out of my body. And it was the most uncomfortable feeling I've ever had in my life, nonstop, while trying to sleep. And day 2, I brought me to tears because I expected day 1 to be a nightmare. And so I was, as bad as it was and worse than what I expected, I still had made peace with, okay, I knew this was going to be like nothing I felt before. And so here it is. Right. And it kept getting worse. So day 2, when after 48 hours, I'm still getting worse and I still haven't slept. I remember crying and praying. And it was like, God, am I supposed to do it this way? It's like, and I had a bottle ready next to the bed nightstand if I couldn't do it. And I remember just getting it, grabbing it, starting to open it and be like, I just need 30 minutes of peace and rest. And I'd get in the middle of the night, sweat in the sauna for an hour, go jump in my freezing cold pool. And all those things would give me like a minute of relief. The freezing ice cold pool would numb my body, and for a moment I could sit there and I could look up and go, oh God, I feel okay right now. And then you'd feel it all come back in again, and the withdrawal symptoms would be right back. And so I would run these cycles through the whole night. I'd go upstairs, I'd sit in the sauna for an hour, I'd walk downstairs, jump in my freezing cold pool, stay in there. It's like a cold plunge for like 5 minutes, get out, stand outside, get in the hot tub. And I would do that cycle because I couldn't lay in a bed. I couldn't lay still. And it was the hardest time of my life. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But the thing that was crazy was I had this weird joy through the whole process. And it was this peace that I had. And it was weird. It was weird to say that. Katrina would ask me, how are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm in the fight of my life right now, but I feel so good about what I'm doing. Like, I know that it's the right path. I know he's got me. I know on the other side of this, it's going to be okay and it's going to be better. And she was so supportive and just allowing, she couldn't touch me to make me feel better. Like, my wife is a healer and makes me feel so good when I couldn't, my skin was constantly crawling. So having her even touch me it was really hard for her too, because she couldn't love on me. She couldn't do anything. She just had to let me have my space and go through it. And the first probably week, it was so unbelievably bad. I think I got a collective of maybe 5 hours of sleep in 7 days total. And those were like little 20-minute blocks where my body was just from pure exhaustion. I would be pacing in the house, and there'd be times where I would just collapse face down into the couch because of pure exhaustion. And my body would just sleep for maybe 20 minutes. And then the withdrawal symptoms were so powerful, it would wake me back up, like flopping around. And I would wake up and then start the cycle again. And so those little 20-minute naps probably added up to about 6 or 7 hours in the first week. And it was really, really tough. And I'm at day 60 something right now, and I still haven't had a great night's of sleep. I can sleep. I get 4 to 6 hours pretty consistently. I haven't had an 8-hour night of rest. I haven't had a night yet that I wake up and I feel really, really good and rested. But every day I feel a little bit better than what I did before. And when you compare where I'm at now, or even 30 days ago, compared to that first week, it is universes away from that feeling, that I have so much peace and joy about that. Like, what I just keep reminding myself is that I did this to myself. I put myself to this place. He spared me so much by not screaming and waking up this deaf world and letting something tragic happen in my life to get me to wake up. It was enough. And he was patient enough with the whispers for me to wake up on my own and make that decision. And I think that's where a lot of that peace and joy came from, was I was just like, man, I'm so blessed that business is good. My wife is good. My son is good. I'm back in my training and my diet. My health is good. Like, I'm so lucky that I experienced this horrible addiction, and I didn't f something else up really bad, because it could have gone that way. And so many addiction stories that I'm very aware of, because I've got a lot of people in my life that I've seen it firsthand, have a story that goes really bad before it goes good. And I chose the really bad. The really bad was that ripping the Band-Aid off and going through the storm. And I'm so grateful that was my bad. That my bad was the symptoms and the withdrawal and how hard it was to work through it, and not that I hurt my wife, or I did something that damaged my career or my reputation, or I'm so blessed that it was that way. And so here I am 60 days later, telling everybody I know, be careful of kratom, because it will sneak up on you. It's real easy to justify it. And it is every bit as powerful and as strong as a Vicodin, a Percocet, an Oxycontin, and even heroin if you take enough of it. Because when I went on, one of the things that also kept me going was I would watch all these withdrawal videos. So I'm up all night. So the only thing, for some reason, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but I had solace in of watching other stories and listening to these other people that had gone through this. And I won the loser award. I couldn't find a single person who was taking more kratom than I was. And the only people that had similar withdrawal symptoms to me were the heroin addicts, the Oxycontin addicts, and the 7-OH addicts. The stuff that I was going through and how bad it was, because most of the kratom people and most of the kratom stories, people switched long before I did. I allowed it for longer and higher. And so when I was watching all these stories of people going through it or recovering from it, the only ones I could connect to were the ones that were like on the 7-OH, the heroin, and Percocet, Oxycontin type stuff. And man, it was a monster, dude. But it's good to be here now.
Bro, congrats. I mean, there's so much I want to say. I'm going to do my best as I relate to what you shared to not steal the show, because there's so much that you shared that, with my own journey from being in recovery from opiates for a long time, I relate. Like, I remember when I took my first 5 milligram Percocet, it was like the weight of the world just came off my back. I felt all this peace. And then it was like, I need more of this. And then it was 10. 20, 40, 80. I mean, at the end of mine, I was doing 3, 4, 500 milligrams of Oxycontin up my nose every single day. I mean, I didn't have a bowel movement for a month, bro. That's how bad because of how bad mine was. I had half of this nostril was missing, just from it being so corroded. And like you, I kind of justified it in my head because I never, to my knowledge, did actual heroin, to where I was like, all right, I'm not doing heroin. This is like, they prescribe this to people. I found ways to rationalize it, even though I knew I wasn't putting like spinach in my system. But I was shocked at how quick you get addicted to these things. It's fast and it's unnoticed. And your life, I mean, at least my life, kind of different. I was 19 to 18, 19, 20 years old. My life fell apart pretty quick because I had this deep reliance on it to where I couldn't get out of bed without doing them. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do all the things. And the withdrawal is what I really relate to. Like those feelings you described, I still vividly remember them. Being in jail, I actually had gotten a prescription for Suboxone, because they will give that to you to help you with the detox from opiates. And you have to essentially prove that you're an addict. You have to pee in a cup to show that you have opiates in your system for them to actually give you a prescription for another, narcotic. But I had taken them with me to jail to help with the withdrawal symptoms. I knew I was going to withdraw so bad. They wouldn't let me take it because it was a type of a narcotic. And, um, and because of that, um, what ended up happening is I detoxed cold turkey for like 3 weeks. And it was like having, I mean, I don't know if I ever really had COVID, so I don't want to use that as an example, but it was literally like having the worst case of the flu for like 3 weeks. Uncontrollable bowel movement, vomiting, anxiety, depression. I mean, I was also smoking cigarettes too. And so I was coming off that. I was screaming in the jail cell, help, because I felt so fucked up. And I remember the guard being like, Doug, if you don't calm down, like you're going to be out of here. And the toughest part, but yet the most blessed part for me, is that feeling of crawling out of your own skin. Because the way I look at it now, I look at it, and not to sound like I have a God complex. It's not what I'm trying to say. It felt like I was born again, like that in that moment. I felt like God was shedding all the old parts of me so this new version of me could become new. That's what I kind of equate it to now, because it literally feels like you're like leaving your own body. And it's so like weird because there's nothing anyone can do to help you. And thankfully, my cellmate got me into fitness. And now, like, you mentioned the cold plunge. There's research that shows that when you're craving something or to help with withdrawal, doing hard things actually helps. Because it's like you said, it kind of shocks your body. You kind of snap out of it intermittently. And but dude, I mean, there's just so much there that I relate to. I guess where I want to go from here is, you've mentioned dabbling in other things. You've mentioned weed, which obviously, I've done a lot of content around weed and how bad that can get if you're not careful, especially with kids. You talked about kratom. I know you've had other things that you've kind of touched. Like, is there something you're trying to escape with these things? Have you found, like, or do you like, why do you feel you have the need to like include some of these in your life and not just be like casual? You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's so crazy is that I mean, I kicked weed completely too. So it wasn't I said weed has never been hard for me. I forget sometimes that I haven't had it for weeks, and it doesn't have a hold on me. It doesn't have, at least for me, it doesn't have the addictive properties. And I know everyone's different, right? So I want to make that disclaimer, because for some, like, I have a buddy who weed is like really messed his life up. Like, it was really, really tough for him. And my wife's family is alcohol. And like, alcohol does not have a pull to me. It has more negative feelings, even though I'll have a glass of whiskey here and there. It does not have a pull or a hold on me. But for sure, opiates, and it runs in my family. I've got 3 different cousins that have been addicted. I have an uncle who's been addicted. I have a mother that went through it at one point. Like, there's definitely a genetic thing that's like, my wife would be in the worst pain of her life and she can't handle an opiate because it makes her nauseous. She has bad dreams. She feels horrible. She has no desire for it whatsoever. But that girl could have 12 drinks and get up at 6 o'clock the next morning and go to work like it was no big deal, like that. So it's interesting how different things work with people's chemistry. And so I never felt like the addiction with it was I just honestly I really like it. Like I really like it. Like today, right now, I can tell you I really like that feeling. Like there's no question. There's no other drug that I've tried or done that I like as much as I like the feeling that opiates give you. And so I've never felt like it was this escapism or coping mechanism. Like it's not connected to like my life is so good right now. My relationship with my wife is peak. My son, peak. Business happiness, peak. Like I'm so like I'm not trying to escape or run from anything, but I'm very aware I like that. It feels really, really good. And I feel functional. Like you and I would be conversing and I could have a day of work and like it doesn't impact me negatively like that. And I never allowed it to impact anybody else in my life. And so it really has always been a just justification process. And it really, what happened was that justification process allowed it to creep in so much that it did take control of me, and then it did affect sleep, and then I did have to do it to keep doing that. But I've never really thought of it like I was coping with something or trying to escape or run from it. And I know that's a normal, common theme with addiction. Um, I just think that it works with my chemistry so well, and I openly know I like it, and enough to where I kept myself from the other stuff, right? I kept myself from the Percocets, the Vicodins, the Oxy. I know that, and so because it was a pharmaceutical, I wouldn't. That was something that I was like, okay, I know I can get addicted to this, but for some stupid reason, I played that game of like, well, we do caffeine, and people smoke cannabis, and it's a leaf, it's herbal leaf, and so I played this like, is it really that bad? Is it worse than somebody who's having a glass of wine occasionally? Is it really worse than the person? And like, so I did that. I did that on a thing that I knew that I have a pull to and I like. And so, yeah, I don't, it wasn't me running from anything or coping for something like that. Cause like I said, that's why I felt so blessed too, was because I'm like, what are you doing? You have such a great life. Everything is good. There's nothing I need to be escaping from or running from or need to fix. Like, I love every aspect of life. Yet here I am doing this thing. I'm letting this thing take control of me there's nothing I should be running from. There's nothing I should be coping over. But admittedly, I like it. I love the way it feels. Even today can say, I know for sure I love the way that thing feels. And why I knew the message was I needed to suffer was now I also have a connection to that. And so as I could sit here and say, oh yeah, I like the feeling of opiate, but not more than what I had to just go through. And so it makes it really easy for me to go like, yeah, no, I'm good. I learned my lesson. And there's no justification of, oh, I'll just have a couple. Maybe in a couple months I'll have a couple and enjoy them. It's like, nah, I have no desire, even knowing how much I like it, because I know that how quickly it could lead to something that can get control of me. And I know what it feels like to come off of that. And that is enough for me to go like, I don't ever want to feel that way again, ever.
Yeah, I think two things can definitely be true. I think that, things like kratom or other substances can hijack your brain and you become addicted to them. And it's also not a coping mechanism, right? But I think the euphoric feeling I relate to a lot too, because opiates is one of the unique things about opiates is it taps into like two centers of your brain. The sense of euphoria when you first get high, like it's like a dog chasing its tail. Like you never will get the same rush that you get when you first do it. And it taps into like the pain sensors where you're able to like relax a bit. And I remember before I did it, somebody who had done it, been like, man, the first time you do an oxy, it's going to feel like almost as good, if not better than having sex. I was like, dude, no way. There's no way. And then I was like, oh my God. It's like that feeling, dude. It is hard to replicate that while also saying that it's a very obviously dangerous and slippery slope. And I never want to go back to that place again. I understand why people do it because of the euphoria and how it makes them feel. But shit, if you're not careful, like your life goes to hell very quickly. And I think you're lucky that you have a lot of self-awareness, dude, around everything. And you're so connected to your own body that you knew, in a way what needed to be done. I am curious, like, how'd the guys take it when you first told them?
Um, they were unbelievably supportive. Like my wife and my partners were just like, "Bro, you're unbelievable." They cut like there's like I can't believe that you chose to go this way, and you're showing up to work. And I couldn't. I mean, Sal keeps saying stuff to me like on a date still to this day, 60 days later. He's just like, "Bro, you look so healthy. You look like you haven't been through it." Like it's so crazy to me what like I had no idea. They had no idea that it was at the level that it was at. I openly did it. Like, so it wasn't like I didn't hide it, but then I also wasn't like announcing to my friends and my wife, like, oh, I'm taking 52 of these things. So if wherever I went, they were in my car or they were in my duffel bag. And, if I felt like right in front of the guys, I would take them. And so I didn't hide anything, but I also was not announcing how control of it had me. And so when I told them, they're like, "Oh, I had no idea. You had like I didn't have any symptoms or I didn't have anything affecting my mood at work." Like the guys were like, "Bro, I had no idea it had a hold of you like that." I'm like, "Yeah, bro, it's got a hold of me and it's bad and I can't sleep without it and I know what I need to do." And so I told them ahead of time. So I told them the day before. And Sal asked me, he's like, "Do you want to talk about it on the podcast?" And I go, "Not yet." I said, let me do it. Let me do it tomorrow. Let me get going. Let me get through the first part because I know that I'm walking in what I don't want to do is I don't want to say something and not follow through. That'll crush me. Right. And I told him too, I said, it's so bad. And I've experienced enough of withdrawals to know that this is probably going to be worse. And so if it's so bad that I have to check myself in, I'm willing to do that if I have to do it. But I believe that through the grace of God and an amazing partners and wife and support, I can do this on my own. And let me prove that I can get through that first week, and then we can talk about it. And so that was kind of like that's how it went down with the guys. And they're like, whatever you need, you need to take time off. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna take time off. I need to work. I need to feel it all. There's like I want to prove I can do this. Like, and so they were just like, "Bro, I can't, you're crazy. You were crazy." And seeing you show up to work and like not look like you're not affected. And then I would tell a story like how my night was, and they'd be like, "Dude, I would never guess." And I'm like, you know what? It's weird, but I have this joy. Nights are really hard, really, really hard. And I cry, I pray, I have all this like that's the other part too. Like I had a relationship with Christ since I was 7 years old. And I spent more time in prayer the last 60 days than I have probably my entire life. I mean, that's how much conversation I mean, it felt like it was just him and I up, so like it's every night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning when the entire world feels silent to me. It was just, and then I can't rest. So all I could do was either watch these addict videos or pray and talk to God and write notes and journal. And like, I did so much of that in the last 30 days. And so I got all this joy because it brought me closer to him. It brought me even closer to my wife, my partners. Like I got so much reward for all that suffering that I had this weird joy, even though my body is still fixing itself and trying to get back to normal. And I'm still haven't had the greatest night's sleep. And I'm reminded every day of like, wow, what I put my body through and how bad I will never want to go back to something like that. But yet also having this weird joy and peace. And personally, I believe that only comes from a higher power. I believe that that's the only way this is possible, that I could be doing something that I've done a lot of hard things in my life, I take a lot of pride on being able to do hard things and do it consistently and stick to what I say. And this is up there with one of the hardest. And as you can probably relate and say, that was probably one of the hardest things you ever went through in your life. And to think that I went through one of the hardest times in my life with so much joy is weird to me, because I can't connect that to any other time. Most of the other times in my life where I've suffered, it's a bad memory. It's a dark memory. It's black. Where this, I have this like, again, I had this peace as I went through it and suffered. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting journey for me, and I feel so grateful that I didn't destroy something, that I didn't allow it to keep going down the road, because it easily, as go. And I understand too, where I remember when I was younger and you'd see shows or stuff like of heroin addicts, and I could never connect the dots of like, bro, how could you want drugs so bad you would stick a needle in your arm and do like, and I understand the rationale, and I try and communicate this to anybody who messes with any sort of opiate, like, because even as simple as kratom, because you get to 52 kratoms a day, and then you go, Jesus, that can't be good, or that's so expensive, or that's so many. I'm probably better off just taking 5-6 Vicodin, and then you start taking 5-6 Vicodin, and then that turns into 20 something Vicodin, and then you go, well, I should probably just take 2 or 3 oxycontins, because 2 or 3 oxycontins will give me that, and then you start taking 20 oxycontins, and then you go, well, it's cheaper and probably healthier for me to stick a needle in my arm than it is to take these 20. And so you can see the rationale. I bet very few people wake up and go, let me try heroin, and just stick it right in their arm. It probably looks like that 90% of the time, if I had to guess. And now it makes sense to me how you start to rationale like, oh, well, this stronger thing, which is why I think too what California did by banning kratom, but then allowing 7-OH to be accessible at those same smoke shops, is the dumbest thing that the state could ever do, because you have thousands, maybe more, maybe tens of thousands, maybe millions. I have no idea how many people are using kratom right now recreationally or addicted to it, but you cut those people off who don't have self-awareness, who are in full addiction, who are coping and running from something, and their only option is to bump up to 7-OH, which for the listeners who don't know is a concentrated version of kratom. So what takes you 20 pills or so of kratom, it takes one of those little 7-OHs to feel like that. It's a concentrated version of kratom. So they allow that to be on the shelves, but then they take the kratom off the shelves. So you damn near force people either, one, to go into crazy withdrawal symptoms and quit, which, let's be honest, what percentage of people are going to choose that, especially if you're running from something, if you're coping with something, if you haven't actively made that choice already. The natural thing to do is to go right to this 7-OH, which is crazy to me that California banned that and then didn't ban 7-OH. You just set people up for a much more difficult time and more addiction.
That's so wild. I mean, I think it's crazy that like kratom was legal for so long. Salvia, I don't know if you ever mess with salvia at the smoke shop. Similar thing.
I never mess with it, but I know, I'm very aware of salvia.
You can essentially just smoke it and you just start tripping for like crazy. Yeah, I never, fortunately, like I never did heroin. I was selling a lot of drugs, so I was able to make enough money to buy like OC80s. I was such a prima donna when it came to my drugs that I had to have the brand name OC80s. I would lick the time release off. I would use like a hose clamp to shave it to get the pill as fine as possible. I would never take the generic ones because you couldn't snort the generic ones because there was filler and it would like just clog your nose up and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing that can just hijack your life. And I think you did it. You did like the blueprint for like recovering from addiction, at least, so far, where in that you reached out, you asked for help, you like lowered your guard, you dropped your ego, and you did the thing. Like you're embracing the discomfort, you're not giving up, you're not freaking complaining about it. You're just like, this is hard, this sucks, but I'm gonna get through it. And you have this incredible support system, which I think it's what people need. I think because what happens is people either try to white knuckle it themselves with zero support and they fail, or they just play the victim and they're like, oh my God, this is so hard. I'm never going to do it. They never, like, I could see you almost like I've seen Sal start, with his Christian stuff, like creating content and like mentoring people. I could see you down the road just based on your passion for helping people, being like a guy who like helps mentor like people that are going through this, because I think, dude, it's just brutal, and men are lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know that. I mean, he'll lead me where I'm supposed to go, and I've always been an open book about anything that I've been challenged with. So, and we're lucky that we have a platform like we do, and I got messages. I just takes me back and gets me choked up. Actually, the amount of messages and DMs that I received from people after they heard. I mean, I had messages of voice messages of grown men crying and telling me how powerful the story was for them and how many people were kicking their addiction and like. So I know how the vulnerability part, as hard as it may be, being in like the limelight and having the attention that we have, can be. But I also know how powerful and useful it can be for others. And so I come from that place, but I'm open to share those things and willing to admit that, like, and listen, like, I have so much good in my life, and yet something like that can happen. So it doesn't just happen to losers or people who had a hard time in their life or someone who's got something tragic or someone who's running from trauma. Like, I have no excuse other than that. Listen, I know I like it. Like, and you described it perfectly. Like, there is very few things. There is no, I've tried a lot of different drugs in my lifetime, and they're like, I've never had any problems with any of the other ones because nothing feels like that. And I know, I understand that that's part of probably our chemistry too. Like, because my wife doesn't get that same feeling when she had to take it for her knee surgery. She was repulsed by it. And I've had friends that are repulsed by it because they don't, where there is no repulsion for me whatsoever. I'm very aware that when it hits my body, it is like sex is the closest thing that I would compare it to, like you did. Like the feeling that you get, that feeling is, but it lasts for hours. And so it is a very addictive feeling, especially for some people that have that chemistry that it just pairs with really well. And I openly admit that I really, really like it, so much to the point that even though I was aware of the pharmaceuticals that I could be addicted to because I'd gone through that before, I was willing to justify the herbal side of it because I was playing this game in my head of like, oh, well, it's not so bad. It's, it's like cannabis, or it's like, it's like tea, it's like caffeine. It's like this, I played this game of it's not so bad. And you do that, you rationalize it enough, and you can rationalize yourself all the way up to 52 pills in a day, and then go through what I went through. And so, yeah, I just caution anybody that likes that feeling or knows that about themselves and is, doing the same justification that I was doing, because you don't have to have this crazy traumatic thing in your life for that thing to get a hold of you. And to me, that's what made it so alarming, and why I think I feel so compelled to even speak out about it, is because, I get, I understand people that have, because I can relate also to trauma and things like that, like trying to escape and run and going through a lot. That's a lot of work to do that. And the feeling that you get of numbing yourself with something like that, like, I have a lot of compassion for somebody who's fighting those battles, and those things make them feel better, and like how difficult that'd be. But this stuff is so addictive and so strong that you don't even necessarily have to have any of that stuff. You could just be like, oh, I like it, and I like it can escalate really fast. And I think you said it really well. It's like you subconsciously are chasing that feeling that you got the first time you had it. And so, 6 turns to 8, turns to 10, turns to 12, turns to, 52 really fast, like way faster than you would you can keep up with a lot of times. And if you do any sort of rationaling with it's okay, before you're like, oh God, it's now something I need to get through my day. And I did all the things too, where it was like, I need to taper down. It's like, but we have that family event tomorrow, and I got that thing. And so I'll do it the next. There was always something every week that I can't be having withdrawal symptoms that I would go through that would justify me going right back up to the dose again. So even though I had this conviction of I need to come off, every time I would start to come down, I would be like, well, I have that thing coming up. So I need to go right back to where I was before. So I at least just feel normal, And so that then I look back, and it's 3 years. It's 3 years I've been carrying these bottles around, and having it and saying, I'm fine, I'm okay, it's no big deal. And so, yeah, no, it's It is a big deal, it could probably ruin a lot of things for a lot of people if it does make change. And who knows, the better version of you without it. Like, I'm so good to be back to my healthier self of eating and training. And, um, you said something too that I think is so important for anyone who's listened this far in this episode. It probably resonates, or they know somebody. Uh, the One of the biggest strategies that got me through those first couple of weeks was the cold plunging and the moving and then like just doing the sauna and doing stuff like that. Like, you don't want to do it because you feel so miserable, but actually going through that does give momentary relief. And even though it's a moment, or 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes when I'm numb in the cold plunge or whatever, uh it did help. It helped a lot. Hydrating like crazy. So I was pounding water. I was doing that thing over and over and moving and trying. And even when I just felt so tired, I didn't train hard. So I knew better not to, like, on 4 days of no rest, go in and go max out on squats. But I exercised, body weight lunges, pushing up. I don't know if you remember this too, but like when I'd be laying in bed, it's like I would do isometrics because the flexing of my muscles as hard as I possibly could, and until I would fatigue, would give me about 30 seconds of relief. So I found doing isometrics. So all night long, if I was trying to lay in my bed while I was praying, I would also be doing isometrics with my quads and my biceps and like just tensing my whole entire body to keep from that skin crawling. So I was doing a lot of things like that. And I had read a lot too on all the supplements I should be taking, all the, like, I was doing red light therapy, sauna, cold plunge. Like, I did everything. So who knows, like, how much worse it could have been and how much longer it could have been if I wasn't doing all the hard things too. And so I can't stress that enough, how valuable that is. And it's difficult while you're doing it because it doesn't really feel like you're getting much relief while you're in it. And so there's probably a lot of people that probably go, what am I doing all this shit for? It's just, but it's like, it does, and it'll help get you through it, I think, faster. It's like the buffalo and the cow storm story. When a storm comes, a cow runs from the storm and the storm catches up. And so the cow ends up being in the storm longer, where a buffalo senses the storm and goes through it and towards it. And doesn't mean the storm is easier, it gets through it faster. And so I kind of think of that analogy as going through. It's just like, go through the storm, go through the hard, do more hard things while you're going through it, because actually that'll get you through the storm faster than trying to evade it and run from it, because it's coming. Storm is coming. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it hard. It's going to be miserable, but going towards it and through it, I think is the faster, better route than trying to run from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to exercise and to do something. Like, it's almost like you got to channel the energy somewhere. Otherwise, that energy just kind of sits there, and you feel better. I think the biggest wins from that come from not going back and using the substance. Like, all right, like, this doesn't feel as good in the moment, but at least I didn't do X. And like, you brought up a good point. Like, addiction, I mean, there's an old saying in like AA that's like, it doesn't discriminate, like anywhere from like park bench to Park Avenue or something like that. Like, you'll find people who are addicted to substances. And, look at Anthony Bourdain, perfect example, right? And I can go on and on with people that you would think have it all, super popular. I mean, we talked offline about the entertainment industry and stuff. Um, and it's just so important to recognize that, I think, frankly, I mean, I think it's harder for people like yourself to overcome it, because, like, for me, there was blatant like red flags in my life. I was losing job after job. My family life sucked. I was so unhealthy. I had all these physical problems. I was, having suicidal ideation, like all these things, all these markers where like, your life was great. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. I would say it's a lot more challenging to like justify giving it up, because you're like, well, dude, like, I'm providing for my family. My wife and I are great. My son and I are great. Mind pump's going amazing. Like, what's really wrong here? There's no real blatant red flags other than that like subtle thing, like referencing that C.S. Lewis quote that was like kind of like tapping you throughout the course of that, you know, transformation.
I don't know how long you've been Christian or not, or believed in God, but I have for a long time in my life. And my 20s and 30s of working through childhood trauma stuff, and I think, and this is my beliefs, right? Once you accept God into your heart, He's always there, and He speaks to us through the Holy Spirit. And people might be going like, well, how's it sound? What's his voice sound like? And it's like, it's not like that. It's this internal conviction that he gives you. And it's a gift. It's an unbelievable gift. And I think that when I was in my 20s and my 30s, even though I knew and he was there and he was whispering to me, I would ignore it until some bad happened, real bad. And then as a Christian, I would repent. I would wake up and I'd be like, ugh. But I'd have to learn the lesson the hard way. That was all of my 20s and my 30s. As a 40-year-old man who's been walking that walk for a really long time, I'm still imperfect. I'm still a sinner. I still make mistakes. And the voice is still there talking to me. I've just gotten a little bit better at listening to the whisper before it becomes him arousing the deaf. And I think that's where the joy came from. The joy came from this like, thank you, Lord. I listened before you had to get loud, and it could have got loud. And that is what gave me so much peace and so much joy. And I think anybody who has accepted him into their heart gets that voice. And it's not like some, external loud voice. It's this internal thing that comes from within that gives you conviction when you're not following in his footsteps. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing that we get. And I've unfortunately learned the lesson the hard way so many times that as I've gotten older, and what I'll teach my son is that the closer you walk, the more blessed you will feel. And the further you get away from it, the more the tragic trauma and bad stuff will happen. And he'll always be with you no matter what. And, he'll whisper early on when you're straying off the path. It'll be a little tap, it'll be a little whisper, and he'll let you ignore it. And he'll tap again. And then that tap gets louder and louder until it gets to a place where you can relate to and talk about. And I can too, of past stuff, right? There's a lot of stuff that I know I wasn't doing the right thing, and I felt that conviction and I ignored it. And then bam, something happens in my life that forces me to listen to it, right? And that always ends up being like major consequences. You know what I'm saying? Hurting somebody, getting hurt, breaking something, losing something way more tragic. And then you have that wake up moment. And so the joy for me really came from that. I didn't wait until then. And even though I ignored, I feel so grateful that he allowed me to ignore a whisper for as long as he did and not hit me over the head, because he could have hit me over the head and I still would have also been like, of course, of course I knew, what I'm saying? So the fact that I was lucky to get away with not listening for that long and not pay some serious, and my consequences were my suffering. My consequences were that. And I accepted that. If this is the worst, then I own it. I did this to myself. I deserve to feel this. This will serve as my reminder. And I thank you. I thank you that it wasn't something far worse. That's where I came from.
Have you ever seen the Lifehouse Everything skit on YouTube? Have you heard the song like Everything by Lifehouse? It's about like I can't tell whether it's about Jesus or it's about like a relationship, but there's a skit that goes to the song. I'll send it to you. It's a tearjerker, but essentially it shows this girl dancing with Jesus, and then it shows like the world. It shows like there's like somebody coming and flashing money, drugs, like all these temptations, and you see her being like pulled away from Jesus, and then Jesus is trying to pull her back, and he can't because these other things are overtaking her. And at the end, you just see Jesus come in and just like essentially like shield her from everything, and it's a really powerful way of kind of describing what you just did, as far as like the further away you get from living a life like that, the worse it gets. Uh, and, I became a Christian. Like, I don't know, it's been 10, maybe 10 years. I mean, and I hated God growing up. And I was under the impression if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you went to hell. And I was like, I'm clearly going to hell. And then on top of that, I was like, if God is about love and he's real, like, why is my life so bad? So I turned my back on it a lot, and I started to like pray a little bit when I was in jail. Went to like Bible study just to get out of my cell. I actually still have the Bible like on my bookshelf that I had it when I was in jail. And I became a Christian when I got really into fitness, and I thought that that would fix all my problems, and then it didn't. Like it helps, but then I became so addicted to like the validation of it that I still felt like empty. It was almost like a healthier drug. And one of my clients was a pastor, and he's like, dude, you got to come to church. And I was like, there's no way. And then finally, like, he just kept nudging and nudging and nudging. And then I called him. I was like, hey, man, I think I'm ready to give this like Jesus thing a try. And I remember it was like I just told him he won the Mega Millions. I was like, why is this guy so freaking happy? It was, and then I did, and then my life has just been so different. And I'm not a religious guy. Like, I frankly, I don't go to church. I believe in God and everything, and I try to live my life in the with Christian values. And I think that you know what it's done for me is it's helped me believe in the power of forgiveness, the power of just believing something greater than me is out there controlling my life, and it's helped me be less egotistical, and it's just gave me this sense of peace that I know that if I can follow a path similar to that, that my life's going to be okay. And that's kind of what it's done for me, um, to where I feel like I have purpose in life. I feel like I was kept alive for a reason. Like I was like, at the time, my client was like, dude, you can't, isn't it crazy how your cellmate helped you get into fitness when you were in jail and now you're helping others with fitness? He's like, do you think you did that by yourself? And I was like, yeah, probably not, But yeah, that's my short-ended story of it. But yeah, man, it's a powerful thing when you like lean into it. I think so many people now are, because of the way some Christians have behaved, I think people, they look at Christianity as like a horrible thing, right? And I just think it's unfortunately gotten a bad rap. I mean, I think it's like anything. There's bad seeds in every industry or profession.
I mean, we're flawed. That's yeah, we're flawed, and it's I mean, we're going through a massive revival right now. And I think that's why that C.S. Lewis quote resonates so much, because not only does it speak to my own personal journey, but I think it speaks to what we're seeing in the world. I think we've ignored him for so long, and we've gone so the opposite direction as a society as a whole. And I think that we're seeing a lot of things crumble and fall apart, and a lot of depression and all this stuff just on the rise. And it's getting worse and worse as we get further and further away. And you see it starting to wake people up. I mean, I don't know if you're paying attention to like the statistics on like the most downloaded apps or like religious Bible apps right now, like the amount of Gen Z that believe in God or that going back to church. And it's we haven't seen numbers like this in decades. It's been a very long time since you've seen some sort of a revival like this. And I think it goes back to, like I said, that quote. I think that we've just gotten so far, and the whisper is turning into a shout. And I think that's what we're witnessing right now. And it's for the good, but also there's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of heart uh, going through getting to that place to where I think we collectively start to wake up. And never will we all wake up, right? That's just part of how it works. I think that, and we're all flawed, no matter what you believe or don't believe. Like, I definitely don't believe I'm better than anybody. That's for damn sure. And I think that's because I really I the whole not a big fan of church and stuff like that resonates with me, because I grew up in a lot of churches. So I think we went to like 11 different denominations growing up, and I saw a lot of hypocrisy. And so that turned me off a lot as a young man, right? So even though I've always been a believer and had a relationship with God, I've had a hard time with my relationship with church, in specifically because of how much hypocrisy I've seen. And and I think that's the judgmental side of me coming out. And reality is like, we're all broken, we're all sinners. And who am I to judge somebody else's sins or whatever, and who am I to judge a church because of a man in that church, or a woman, or one pastor, or one. It's like to collectively throw out uh the whole because of one bat. That's crazy. And so yeah, I've definitely, my heart has softened in those regards about that. Even though I'm still a big guy on this, like, I feel like I have such a great connection with him, that like when I need to be in his word and reading and doing those things. And I also have partners that also are believe, and Sal is on his journey right now. And so it's like, I mean, church is when one or two are gathered in his name. And so we talk about our relationship and him every day, so it's like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on church as much as Sal wants me to come to his church all the time. I'm like, I feel like I get a lot of that right now, which is very rewarding for me. And I do feel closer to him because of what I just went through than I ever have. So it's been awesome, man. As crappy as a withdrawal and addiction can be, it's also been an incredible blessing in my life. And I hope that I hope that one person hears this and changes what's going on in them, or one person this helps them through going through that, because I know you have. I know that a lot of what you talk about is centered around your story and your journey, and why. I mean, I remember when you first came on our show, like how I was so surprised by how many people it impacted, because obviously you weren't some famous dude when you came on our show.
You guys grilled me. I remember having to talk to Sal. People were like grilling, because I mean, if I respected that, because I was like, oh man, these guys have high standards for their guests.
And so, but it's cool is that we, even though you weren't known or any of those things, it's like, listen, I think he has a powerful story, and I think people need to hear it. And it was so cool to see how well it did. I mean, it's outperformed people far more famous than you or I on the show. And so I think it just speaks to how powerful of a message that you're sharing, and what we're talking about, and how many people can help. And so I love that, and I love what you continue to do. And if this helps anybody, I think it's worth the time that we spent talking about it.
Well, thanks, brother. That means a lot. I mean, it really does. I mean, I'm really honored for our friendship, and I was honored to come on the show. And um, I know we got to wrap here in a second, but the last thing I want to say is, if you think it's like, we just watched the national championship, right? I don't know if you saw that game, but the most popular athlete right now is Fernando Mendoza, and he like starts every speech, I want to give all the glory to God, which I think is very, at least he's become, at least in my opinion, like the most likable dude, because not just because of that, he just owns it, but you just see like the humility and the courage. I mean, that fourth down play, I was telling my wife, that's like the greatest football play I've ever seen live. And it's just so cool to see him be kind of platformed right now.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I didn't watch it, but I'm aware of who he is, and I'm aware of his popularity. Um, I think a lot of that has to do with what we were just saying before, of where our society is at right now, because Tim Tebow was like that. And I love Tim Tebow, and I love what he was doing when he was doing it, but boy, was it not accepted the same way. In fact, he was definitely not elevated for it. Or, I mean, obviously other Christians celebrated him and were pro him, but the media was really hard on it. If you remember, they were constantly critiquing, what a quarterback he is, and he should be this, and the guy just kept winning games and doing amazing things, and always giving the glory to God, and always talking about his teammates. Everybody who played with him loved him, like nothing but great things about that man. And they just, the media felt like it felt, or at least that I remember it being that way, that it felt like was constantly trying to knock him off his pedestal. And I feel like there's a shift. I mean, you even see it, like I'm more of an NBA watcher, and guys, before, I've been to a lot of live games, and I have for many years, and guys have been getting together and circling and praying before games for a long time, but the media is now showing it. And for the last few decades, we didn't. And so I have this real, I don't know, cautious, or I don't know how I feel about it when I see, because media has their intentions are rarely pure. It's normally for attention eyeballs. I think the reason why you feel and see what you feel with him right now is that it serves the media because of the rise of Christianity, the revival that's happening. So it's in their best interest. I think if it was BLM time, that's what they would be showing and promoting. It's like whatever is hot or trending is what they tend to promote or talk about. And so it's exciting because I'm happy because it's a good message, but at the same time too, it doesn't feel genuine from the media side. It feels like there's been good men and women that have been saying, and pro athletes and great leaders that have been saying this message and talking about this for a long time consistently. But we're now highlighting it in the media because it's trendy and it's cool. And so at least that's how I feel. Cause I feel like, again, I think Tim Tebow is such a cool example, just 10 years ago, that was doing some real, and I don't know if you've ever heard some of his interviews where he tells some great, like his the John 3:16 story that he tells with the time and his stats. Have you ever heard that on Sean Ryan's show?
Oh yeah.
I mean that's become popular today. That happened 10 years ago, or more. It was 10 years ago when that happened, but it's gone viral today. So it's like, it's unfortunate that it wasn't getting the platform it deserved 10 years ago. And now it is. So yeah, I'm cautious of the media because the media will also twist and turn things too for them. And so it's like I pray for all the men and women that are being highlighted like that right now. I think it is a better message, but I also caution people because then you quickly could take someone like that who they build up, and then everybody loves to see a fall, right? So there's nothing like a story like building up this great, Christian guy who does all these great things and everybody loves him and this and that. And then let's find the thing to destroy him, because nothing will get more attention than building him all the way up and then tearing him all the way down. And so when you see these people, I think it's always important that we pray for them that they're protected, because I wouldn't trust media to look out in their best interest or not be the first persons to kick that person when they fall down. And then guess what? They're human and they're sinners, and eventually they fall down too. And so, hopefully they're not just using them because it's what serves them right now.
Big fan of Sean Ryan and his podcast. If you haven't watched Tebow on Flagrant, have you seen that one on Andrew Schultz's podcast?
No.
Oh yeah, it's funny. It's funny. And he talks about how he would, like, people used to hate him because Tebow would say, like, he would get like rocked and he would like help the guy up, like, oh my God, man, nice hit. And he said people just used to like really hate him. But yeah, check that out. But dude, this has been an amazing conversation. It's going to help a lot of people. I'm so grateful for you. And thanks again for your vulnerability, your humility, and your honesty with this episode.
Appreciate you, brother. And appreciate what you're doing. Always good time talking to you.